welcome to my podcast. My name is Ali O'Shea and the name of my podcast is Soul Expansion and Inspiration. This is episode 6 and I would like to welcome Samantha Trew to the show. Samantha has been a spiritual life coach for over 20 years. She is a Reiki teacher and healer. She is also a motivational speaker and a published author. Her book is called The Wake Up Call. Welcome, Samantha. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, thank you.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm really good. I'm excited to be on your show.
I'm excited to have you here. Super excited to have you here. So welcome.
Thank you.
So you've seen spirit since you were a very young child, and you had an out-of-the-body experience when your granddad died, which was really what started you on your spiritual journey. And he showed you what it was like in the spiritual realm. And you also met your guide, Merlin. Wow, what a fascinating story. Would you like to tell the listeners all about it?
Yeah, it was scary at the time, to be fair. But once I realised what had happened, it was definitely an exciting journey for me. So my granddad, I was really close to my granddad. I used to see him every day. He was an important part of my life. And then when he died, I was absolutely devastated. And I cried for weeks and weeks. And I just couldn't get my head around that I couldn't see him anymore. He wasn't there.
Yeah.
And even my nan would be like, he would be so upset to see you so upset, you have to stop this crying. And I would be like, I can't accept it. I just can't accept that he's gone, and I'm never going to see him again.
Right.
And he, about 6 weeks after his passing, I was, and I just tried to get back into normal life, as they say.
Yeah.
And I went to bed as usual, and I used to listen to the radio. There was an alarm clock, and I would put sleep on for 60 minutes and listen to a radio show where people would phone up and talk about different subjects and stuff.
Right.
Normally politics, to get me off to sleep.
Really? That's an unusual topic to listen to. Try to go to.
I know. So that happened, and I did fall asleep, and it did seem like I had been asleep for quite a while. And all of a sudden, I found myself in a garden, a beautiful garden, flowers, beautiful statues, high tree hedges, just a beautiful place. And I was aware, I knew my granddad was beside me, and he didn't speak at first, and I think it was because he didn't want to frighten me. So
could you see him in the physical format, or was it like a spirit format?
Not at first. I didn't see him in a physical. I just felt his energy. I knew it was him beside me. I think I was just too scared to look
at
him, So anyway, so we walked for a bit through these gardens, and then we came to a bench, and I sat down, and that's when I saw him in physical form, and I saw his legs first. So I saw his trousers that he used to wear and his shoes, and I was like, oh no, it really is you. And that's when he spoke to me, and he said, I'm here and I'm okay. So that for me was good, and I was like, can I hug you? Can I hug you? And he was like, yes, come on. And he wasn't very demonstrative in this life, so he was still very, yes, you can hug me, but I'm not very good with showing emotion. So he was still very much like my granddad.
Right, yeah.
But I got up and I threw my arms around him, and I could smell him, and just everything about him was there. And then he said, look, I've come to let you know that I'm okay, and let you know that there is more to this, the life that you know. And that's when we when he took me on this walk, and we went to a place called, well, I've called it the Departure Lounge. So it's where people are waiting to be born. Again,
Right.
we walked through this massive, and it was like, it was bigger than an airport departure lounge, but it was very similar. It had gates and times and places. There was lots of people milling about and stuff. And then he took me, and then we came out of there, and then he took me to another place where he told me if souls come over, dive fast, suddenly, and they're in shock, their souls have to go to a hospital to recover, to get over the shock. So he took me to this place which was a hospital, but it didn't look like a hospital. It looked different to the ones that we experience here. And that was for all, like if somebody's passed over with a heart attack or a car accident or something, and then their souls recover, and then they can, move on.
Right.
So he said, this is what happens, and this is how life is up here, and would you like to come and see where I live? So I went to where he lives, and his house was like what he wanted in this life, really. His little thatched cottage, and
So it's like the physical houses, and they have physical beds and stuff like that?
yeah, well, I don't know whether there was beds, but he just, like, what I saw was a thatched cottage. I didn't go in. He was just like, this is where I live, and he also said that he has things to do,
Yeah.
So I was like, well, like what? And he said, well, sometimes I help souls come over, and get them established to the different frequencies and energies and stuff like that. So he would be like that in life. He was he wanted to help people. So he was like that in life. And for him to take on a job as doing something like that was very, I could understand it, that's what he would want to do. And then there's so much, because he took me to other places like the halls of knowledge, where there was just this massive hall and just wall-to-wall books. And he said, if ever you want to, you can always come here and just be peaceful, be quiet, and you can pick a book and read if you wanted to. And
what were the books on? Do you know? Like, were they?
Well, all I know is that they were. It was called the Halls of Knowledge, so I suppose. But I didn't actually. I think I was so in awe of just being with my granddad, I wasn't curious enough to. I think I didn't want to miss a bit with my granddad.
Yeah.
And I didn't see what the books were. I just knew that there was lots of books, and it was the halls of. He called it the Halls of Knowledge. So
right.
I was just there. So so he took me into that, and he said, you can sit and just be peaceful. You can come here anytime you like, which was weird, and just sit and be.
I wonder, did he mean once you'd passed over?
Well, I didn't question it.
Yeah.
But now I know that I can go back anytime
Right.
I like to that place.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and then we came back out of there and was walking along the back into the Cherub Gardens, and then this other man appeared, and my granddad said, okay, this is your guide. He's been with you throughout your life. I didn't get his name. He wouldn't tell me his name at first. That came later on.
Right.
But he was, again, he looked very kind. He looked very knowledgeable. He looked very wise, and I didn't feel I didn't feel uncomfortable. I didn't think, well, what's a guide? I don't know anything about this, or it was just like I accepted it. So my higher self, I think, already knew that, but my my physical self or my logic brain didn't know that, but because of where I was, I accepted that that was my guide, and he was going to be with me for the rest of my life and guide me through life, etc., etc. So then
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. But then I got told, okay, it's time for you to go back. And I was like, I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
I want to stay. I want to stay with my granddad. And they both were like, no, you have to go back. You can come back as many times as you like, but you have to go back. You know, you've got a job to do. You have a purpose. There's a life for you. So
Did they tell you what your purpose was?
Not at that point.
Okay.
Not at that point. I was still resisting going back. So I wasn't bothered about whether what my purpose was. I was like, no, I like it here. I want to stay here.
So cute.
So then, so they were like, no, this is serious. You know, you do have to go back. It's something important for you to do. So I started coming back, but it was very weird. It was like I was underwater,
Right.
and I was being pulled backwards under this water, which was the frightening experience. You know, that was quite terrifying for me, because I thought, oh my God, I'm leaving them, but I'm out of control. You know, I can't control this feeling. And it was like I was being pulled back under this water. That's the only way I can describe it.
Yeah, like a magnet, maybe.
Yeah. It's very, very weird. And the light was going away from me, and I was going under this water into this darkness. And then I found myself, I think because I struggled a bit, you know, I was fighting against that movement or that motion. I then found myself at the bottom of my bed looking at me asleep in bed, which was
spooky,
terrifying. And
am I alive? Am I dreaming?
Exactly. And then it was like my logic brain had kicked in and was like, oh my God, you know, what's happened? I'm there, but I'm here. I'm standing here, but I can see myself in bed. How do I get back in? How do I, you know? And my bedroom was my bedroom. There was no more light. There was no more feeling of my granddad or my guide or anything like that. It was just my bedroom, and there was my body in bed. And my mind was racing, as if to, you know, if my mum comes in, she's going to see me and think I'm just asleep, you know, and I'm not asleep. I'm here. I'm here. And I can't even call for help because she won't hear me. So it was a terrifying, probably, I'd like to say it was a terrifying hour or hours, but it probably only lasted a few minutes.
Yeah.
Because then I was like, okay, you need to calm down. We've got to deal with this. This isn't going to go away. I've got to find a way in my body. So I went up to my body that was sleeping on, I say me. I was sleeping on my side with my head, my hands under my head. And I started looking for some hole. I must have come out of a hole. There must be a gap somewhere. And I'm going along my body thinking, did I come out by my feet? Did I come out by my head? You know, and obviously there was no hole. I didn't find a hole. So I thought, okay, the only way to do this must be a bad dream. This must be a really bad dream. I've just had a terrible dream. This is a nightmare, and I need to lay on top of myself and mimic how I'm laying, and close my eyes and try to go back to sleep. Well, that didn't work either, because I laid down and thought, just close your eyes and go back to sleep, but it wasn't working. I wasn't going back to sleep. So I thought, okay, just count to 100 then, really slowly. So that's what I did. I just counted and tried to relax and think, come on, we can do this.
Yeah.
Just count slowly to 100. And after 100, I did feel as if I was in body. Yeah. So my first thought was, okay, wiggle your fingers that was under your head, which I did. And then I was like, okay, you can open your eyes, which I did. I then opened my body eyes. And then as I went to get up, I realised that actually I was on a bit of a slope. So I realised then that my legs weren't in my body. I was still half in and half out. So then I panicked again, and I was like, oh my God, I'm not in. So I was like, close your eyes, count to 100, count to 100. So I closed my eyes, counted to 100 again, really slowly, and just tried to breathe, and relax. And this time it wasn't my fingers. I was like, wiggle your toes, just make sure your feet are in first.
Yeah.
Which I was able to do. And then I could move my feet, and I was like, okay, I think I'm in. Open your eyes. And I opened my eyes, and I was completely back in my body. And obviously I sat up, turned the light on, as you do, had a good look around, making sure that everything was normal.
Yeah.
And it was. But then I was terrified then to go back to sleep in case it happened again. So the clock, it was 3:10 in the morning, and I stayed awake all night waiting for my mum to wake up.
Oh my goodness. Did you tell your mum what had happened?
Yeah, well, I think she knew something had happened, because apparently I was as white as a sheet. All the colour had drained from me. And when I was telling her with such fear that she was like, I don't think that was a dream. I think something happened to you, and because you're genuinely really scared by it, and I don't want you not go into sleep again, So she was like, be easy with yourself today, go. At the time I had horses, and she was like, go do the horses, spend some time with them, and when you come home, I'll be back from work and we can talk about it more.
Right. So she was really compassionate about it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think she did. Well, she said she believed me, and I just think it was the way I was terrified that it was going to happen again. So she went to work, and then she told one of her friends at work she said, oh, Sam came in and told me about this thing that's happened. And her friend at work said, well, if you want, I've got a number of 2 spiritual people, and they helped my daughter when she had a weird experience. Maybe you can go and talk to them about what happened. So she actually helped me loads. She came home with a phone number, and we phoned these people, and they were amazing, and told me that yes, indeed, I had gone and spent time with my granddad, and I had actually come out of my body, and that's what everybody on earth does, but doesn't actually know about it. They do leave their bodies at night and go off traveling, because their souls are free. They're not weighed down by the weight of their body, their 3D body. And the information they gave me was great, although I was quite happy to go back to normal life.
Yes, yeah, I can imagine.
It scared me, and I was like, no, I don't. You explained it, I understand it, but now I don't want that to happen ever again,
Yeah.
And I was quite happy that my granddad was okay, and that made
How old were you at the time?
I was 20.
Okay.
Yeah. I had just turned 20.
So did you see spirits before that, though, as a young child?
Yes, when I was well, I think I've always seen spirit from the time I was born, but my earliest memory was I was about 3 years old, between 3 and 4, and a man would come and sit on the end of my bed, and I would see him as clear as day, and we would have conversations. He would talk to me, I would talk to him. My mum used to come in and say, you know, who are you talking to? And I would say to her, that man. my mum would be like, what man? And that man there, he's smiling at you.
Oh, goodness. Be so freaked out, your mother.
My mum was like, all right then, Sam, just lay down and go back to sleep. And that was, you know, at the age of 3 and 4, that it was so easy to say, that man, you know, that man, he's smiling at you. You know, it was so easy for me to say, because I saw him and I couldn't work out why my mum couldn't see him. But I thought everybody could see him.
You told me a funny story actually about that, didn't you? About saying you can't sit there. There's somebody already sitting there.
I think I was about 7, and that happened quite a bit. I would say things like, we would get on a bus, and I'd say to my mum, "Oh no, you can't sit there. Somebody's sitting there." that man's sitting there.
That's so funny. Just like to think that, like, on all these trains and planes and automobiles, that there's people sitting there and we'll go and sit down.
I'm telling you, you have no idea. There are people everywhere.
That's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. That's so funny.
Be at a restaurant or something, and I'd be like, no, we can't sit there, that man's sitting there, or that lady's sitting there.
Oh, that's funny. Your sound is going in and out a bit. I'm not sure why, but every now and again it's quite low. It'll be fine, I'm sure. That's an amazing story, though, so thank you for sharing that. But you've also had more than one out-of-body experience, haven't you?
I have.
Can you choose to go now, like what you were saying, you know, where your granddad and your guide said, you know, you can come back here anytime you want?
Yes.
So do you choose to go, or do you just get like a surprise?
Sometimes I will, sometimes I don't choose in that moment. I don't actually consciously say, okay, I want to go there. But sometimes I find myself there, you know, so I find myself talking to my in the garden, talking to my granddad. And I'm aware that I'm not dreaming, because coming back, I have the same experience as the first time round. You know, I'm aware that my body's in the bed and I've got to just lay on top of myself.
Have you perfected that now?
Yeah, I don't panic so much now. That's become a lot easier. And even ongoing, I know that I'm going, I get a funny funny frequency in my ears. It's like a buzzing. It's a bit like when you go under anaesthetic and you get that, well, I experience that buzzing feeling, that the walls are closing in, sort of thing, you know, and you get that buzzing, and I then can't move my body, and then I know I'm on my way out. So right. And then find myself through the light. I go through this light and my granddad's there on the other side. Or Merlin is there now.
Wow.
So and then I get told, like, the books, the halls of knowledge, the books are all about years and years and years. I mean, before time even, there's all these books, and they are very much on knowledge of life's mysteries, is the only way I can describe it, and energy and frequencies and stuff like that. I've not really delved into the books, but on closer inspection, I've been, what are these books about? And 9 times out of 10, the books that I are drawn to is all about frequency, vibrations, and knowledge of all of that. So that's
amazing.
Yeah, that was my another out of body experience. But and the good thing about that is that I can now come back and remember what the information that I'm given. I can now remember, whereas before it was hard for me to hold on to that information, and then throughout the weeks and the months I would get the flashbacks of pieces of information, whereas now I can come back and write it down the following day, everything. So I'm managing to hold on to or absorb the information through the filter that we all have.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. And so you published your book, and it's called The Wake Up Call. So would you like to tell everybody what that's about? Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's my first book. I wrote it, well, I was inspired to write it. I had a few terrible years. I had open heart surgery in 2011. And then I recovered, obviously. I'm here.
Yeah.
Yay!
Yeah.
And
hold on, you're not a spirit now?
No. Oh, I may be. You're very psychic. You can see me. So, and I had a few rough on like family, personal stuff was going on, and it was just really hard. And my brother-in-law had a stroke, and we took him in and looked after him as well. And then my father-in-law died, so there was a lot going on. And I was walking around the field, walking my dog one day, and decided to have a word with my granddad and my guide, and said, you know, what can I do? Something needs to change. And that's when Merlin said to me, people are ready to hear, you know, that the planet Earth is in a dark place at the moment. You know, there's so much going on that's quite dark and quite negative. Dark forces are taking over, and we need people like you to shine light and love and raise the vibration of the earth. So he then inspired me to write a book about it. So the book is on I would say the book is personally about my journey, but you don't have to read it as it's mine. You can read it as yourself going through the journey. So it starts with Merlin calling all the angels into the great halls of knowledge for an urgent meeting, and then he explains to the angels that the dark and negative forces are going on Earth, and would they be interested in signing up on a mission to come to Earth and light it up and try and raise the vibration of light and love to bring the Earth.
I'm one of those angels.
I think you are too. I think you are.
As well as you.
Yes. Yeah, we're all coming together, and somehow our paths are crossing and meeting.
Yeah.
And we've all got a massive job to do. You know, bringing Earth back into balance, because it's not in balance at the moment.
That's fascinating what your book's about. I love it.
Yeah. So that's basically, and then there's obviously me, and I've based it on the fact that there's an angel that doesn't want to come, you know, and she's very reluctant to come because she thinks it's a waste of time and there's no point. The dark have already overwhelmed the Earth. And she fears failure, which is quite, people will resonate with feeling that failure, fearing failure. So she doesn't want to go, but all of her friends do go.
Right.
And then she feels like, oh my God, all my friends have gone, they're going to get lost, they're going to get caught up in life, which is very, you know, getting caught up in work, you know, relationships, alcohol, drugs, all of that sort of thing. So they're going to lose themselves and lose what they're here for. Right. So she wanted then to come and try and find her friends to remind them of their mission, and they're supposed to be doing, basically. So yeah, it's half fiction but half based on what I've experienced, because that book, The Wake Up Call, is very much about over there on the other side, like the Sherwood Gardens and my conversations with Merlin and stuff.
Sounds amazing.
So
amazing. Where can people buy your book?
It's on Amazon, and if they type in The Wake Up Call, it will be the name. It's not Samantha Trew, it's SK Trew, and it's the picture of it is the world with wings coming out of it. I have got it somewhere, but yeah, I could have showed you.
Yeah, and just to clarify for everybody, your surname is spelled T-R-E-W.
T-R-E-W, yes.
Yeah, I know Irish people say "or" funny.
Oh.
People go "r," "or."
Yeah.
So fantastic! Thank you for telling us about that. That's brilliant. The book sounds amazing. So I hope you get lots and lots of sales with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You talk about the love vibration, and you say that you believe it is the most important energy to understand. I totally agree with you, considering love and appreciation are two of the highest vibrations on the planet today. So would you like to go more in depth to the people listening, and also what you say love, your trademark, stands for?
Oh, okay. So love, my trademark, stands for, well, that's in the book as well.
Okay.
Yeah, so Merlin asks Sophia if she knew what love stood for. And she says, no, I don't. And then he says, it stands for let our vibration expand.
Wow.
So that's that, and we all have love, as I've come to understand it. We all have the ability to love, and we all have this very powerful vibration within us. And it's only life that stops us from expressing it so freely to each and every one of us, because we get hurt or life circumstances change us, and we put walls up and barriers up, and we become very defensive, and we don't like to show our vulnerable side. So having knowing that we've all got it within us, for having that love,
yeah,
it's learning to be vulnerable with it. And I'll give you an example. I wasn't very good at being vulnerable. I wasn't very good at showing my feelings. I wasn't very good at expressing myself. I would be very insular, and I had a wall up, and it was more of, I'm going to get you before you get me type of thing.
Apparently there is such a thing as a heart wall, you know.
Yeah.
Just like what you're saying, it gets built up. So yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah. Well, I believe that. I do believe that. And it took me to be courageous enough to show my vulnerability, and also take responsibility for how I was feeling. So in my relationship with my husband, back in the early days, I'm going back in the early days, I was trying to learn to be vulnerable, because a lot of stuff would come up where I would take things personally. I didn't realise that it was his own fears and lack of confidence, because it was very projecting onto me. And there was stuff that I knew that I was doing that I could have said it a different way. So I started to learn with the love vibration within me to say, okay, this is my stuff. This is nothing to do with you, but this is how I feel. And then express myself in a kind way to how I was interpreting his his action or his behaviour towards me, and he would instantly, instead of it turning into a massive row, he would instantly say, "Oh my God, that was not my intention," and he would then react differently to my reaction to his action. And it would open up the lines of communication, and we would talk it through and hug it out at the end, and have love. So it was amazing how it worked. And then I was aware that it can also happen in friendships, and that can also happen in, parents and siblings. And instead of attacking or defending, just by holding your hands out and showing that little bit of vulnerability, and speaking from your heart with the love, it worked miracles. It worked absolutely miracles. So, and that was the vibration of love. And most people, I think, are trying their best a lot of the time, but also feel that they're being attacked by somebody, either in the family or at work or in life in general. And if we can just soften and put our hands up and show that vulnerability through the love vibration, I'm sure the world would be a better place.
Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. And so you have some events coming up, don't you? You're in the UK, in England, for those who don't know. Whereabouts in the UK are you again?
I'm based in Kent, near Canterbury.
Yeah. And so you've got some events coming up. Would you like to tell the listeners about that?
I would. I've got one event coming up on the 12th and 13th of May. It's a mindset meditation retreat.
Wow.
That's in Essex, though. That's not in Kent. We stay at a beautiful hotel. The grounds are amazing, and there's woods there that we can all go walking in. And I'm hoping to do a Merlin meditation.
Oh wow, that's so cool. So basically channeling Merlin?
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, in the woods.
Yeah.
So I'm really, really excited about that. I'm really looking forward to that.
Great.
We're hoping to do more retreats. We're hoping to do more.
Where can people find out about the retreat then?
They can go onto my website. It's www.lovelifecoach.co.uk. That needs to be updated, but all the retreats and all the workshops and everything are on there. Or they can contact me via Facebook. I have a Facebook page, Samantha Trew, and all my events and workshops and stuff will be on there too.
Fantastic. Wow. Is there anything else that you would like listeners to know before we finish up?
No, don't think so, apart from love yourself and love each other. And do you know what? Don't sweat the small stuff, because of my experience, and I can only speak from my experience, we're only here for a short while, and nothing is as freeing as knowing that there's more after this life, and it's bigger than we think. A lot
much
bigger.
Picture. Much bigger picture.
Yeah, absolutely, out there.
My goodness. Fantastic. Well, I'd love to say thank you so much for your time this afternoon. It's been absolutely fascinating hearing your story and about your book. And again, listeners can go and get your book at Amazon, and it sounds amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here. It's an honour to be chatting with you, and thank you for your friendship.
Oh, thank you, and you too. So we'll say namaste for now, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.